Imagine opening your eyes inside a place so enormous, so perfectly engineered, that your mind needs several seconds just to understand what you're seeing. Because it looks like a world, but it isn't one. It's inside one. The ceiling above you isn't a sky, though at first glance it feels like it is. A soft dome of atmospheric light stretching beyond the horizon, glowing in a color that resembles early morning sun. Yet the warmth spreading on your skin is too even, too gentle, too controlled. This is the moment, your first conscious breath, when you realize you're living inside a planet-sized space habitat, a colossal, artificial world built by human hands, floating silently in the darkness of space. The air that fills your lungs doesn't carry the randomness of natural breezes. Instead, it's perfectly calibrated with a quiet rhythm, as if the habitat itself inhales and exhales with you. As your senses slowly adjust, you begin to notice the vastness around you. Entire landscapes curving impossibly upward in the distance, wrapping toward the horizon until they rise overhead, forming the inside wall of this megastructure. Lakes shimmer in the distance, forests sway in a soft, engineered wind, and clusters of cities lie scattered like constellations on the inner surface of this hollow world, each one glowing with a warm, comforting quietness. You're not standing outdoors. You're standing inside an engineered environment so complex and stable that it mimics the best parts of Earth while removing all the unpredictability that once made life stressful. The ground beneath you vibrates with a faint, soothing pulse. Not mechanical or metallic, but something closer to the heartbeat of a living ecosystem designed to keep everything in balance. Far above, where a sky would normally be, a subtle radial glow creates a permanent sense of dawn, soft enough to relax the mind, but bright enough to anchor your sense of orientation. You notice, too, that the sounds around you feel unusually organized. Not chaotic, not overwhelming, but distributed in a way that your brain instantly accepts. Gentle wind, distant running water, birds engineered to sing soft harmonic tones that never spike too loudly, and the faint hum of artificial gravity systems buried deep beneath your feet. And as you take a slow step forward, still waking up inside this impossible world, you realize something else. Here, nothing is rushed. Cities breathe calmly. Days unfold at a pace designed not to exhaust, but to soothe. Distances seem large, but never intimidating, because every path curves gently with the interior of the habitat. You feel small, but safe, protected by a structure capable of supporting billions, yet quiet enough that you can hear your own thoughts without interruption. And so, in this moment, as you begin to walk through the soft grass of a world built on the inner shell of a titanic artificial planet, one question settles gently in your mind, like a whisper carried across this endless engineered horizon. What would life truly be like if you lived inside a planet-sized space habitat? Not for a visit, not for a mission, but for your entire existence. To understand what it truly means to live inside a planet-sized space habitat, you have to picture its structure, not just its size, but the way every layer of it exists, with a purpose so precise that nothing inside ever feels chaotic or out of place. From the ground where you stand, all the way up to the softly glowing inner horizon, everything in this world follows a gentle curvature, a reminder that you're standing on the inner surface of an enormous engineered shell. If you were to travel in a straight line for hours, you wouldn't reach the edge of a continent. You would eventually return to the same spot, completing a loop around the interior of the megastructure. The sensation of distance is calming rather than overwhelming. You can see far, but not infinitely far, because the curvature gently folds the environment upward, cradling every valley, forest, and city under a single continuous arc. Beneath this inner landscape lies the habitat's structural backbone, layers of composite alloys, flexible but unimaginably strong, designed to hold atmospheric pressure steady and create a gravitational field that mimics Earth's with uncanny accuracy. This artificial gravity isn't produced by engines humming loudly or machines shaking the environment. Instead, it's the result of the entire megastructure's slow, colossal rotation, so steady and silent that your body never questions it. The sensation of weight, the way your feet meet the ground, the way water settles into rivers and lakes, all of it feels natural, even though every aspect is engineered. Above you, where the dome-like ceiling meets the horizon, a vast illumination ring simulates daylight in a smooth, controlled cycle. It shifts colors over time, transitioning from soft dawn tones to full midday brightness to an evening glow that encourages the body to rest. There is no harsh sunbeam, no UV spikes, no weather with violent mood swings. The habitat's sky is a masterpiece of serenity, designed so that every living being under it, plants, animals, and humans, thrives without stress. Even clouds inside the habitat are artificial, created through carefully regulated humidity vents that release gentle vapor patterns, forming slow-moving shapes across the inner sky. Rainfalls aren't storms. They're warm, rhythmic, and evenly distributed across regions, like a carefully choreographed pause for nature to breathe. Everything here is built to eliminate extremes. No scorching heat, no freezing nights, no sudden shifts that confuse the body. The megastructure itself is layered like a gigantic, self-sustaining organism. Deep beneath the living surface are maintenance levels, thermal stabilizers, recycling corridors, and acoustic dampeners that ensure every footstep on the upper world sounds soft, every breeze flows calmly, and every vibration is absorbed before it can cause discomfort. Even the walls of this inner world are thick enough to withstand cosmic radiation and micrometeor impacts without ever disturbing the life inside. What you see when you look around is harmony, an environment planned not for survival but for comfort, not for chaos, but for continuity. The sheer scale of the habitat should feel intimidating, but instead it feels like walking through a world that was intentionally shaped to carry the weight of human life gently, like a cradle floating through the stars. And the more you observe these subtle structural choices, the curvature, the lighting, the artificial ecosystems, the clearer it becomes that this place wasn't built to impress. It was built to ensure that every moment spent inside it feels calm, stable, and endlessly peaceful. Waking up inside a planet-sized space habitat feels different from waking up anywhere on Earth, not because the routine itself is unusual, but because everything around you has been designed to make the start of your day feel effortless, calm, and deeply predictable in the best possible way. Your living quarters aren't cramped metal chambers like the old science fiction vision of life in space. Instead, they resemble serene, bio-designed homes that merge natural textures with futuristic materials. Walls curve gently, following the contour of the megastructure, and they're coated with a soft, breathable surface that regulates temperature without any harsh machinery sounds. Light doesn't snap on overhead. It slowly blooms into the room, like the soft glow of a sunrise filtered through fog, nudging your eyes awake without forcing them open. The air carries a subtle floral note, not from a chemical diffuser, but from micro-ventilation systems that circulate filtered oxygen mixed with natural aromatic compounds produced by the habitat's vegetation sectors. As you sit on the edge of your bed, the floor slightly warms beneath your feet, matching your body temperature so the transition from sleep to movement feels gentle. There's no abrupt coldness, no jarring textures, just a smooth, supportive surface that responds to your weight. When you step out into the hallway, you don't hear traffic, machinery, or unpredictable city noise. Instead, a steady, ambient hush fills the environment, created by a mix of distant wind simulations and subtle water channels built to mimic the comforting white noise of nature. Even gravity feels perfectly tuned, never too heavy, never too light, but balanced in a way that makes your steps feel natural and your body relaxed. Breakfast areas inside the habitat are communal but quiet, designed to encourage interaction without overwhelming the senses. Soft seating, curved wood-like materials, and plant-filled alcoves create a warm atmosphere where people eat calmly, often accompanied by gentle instrumental tones that play almost imperceptibly in the background. Food here isn't just sustenance, it's engineered nutrition, cultivated inside vertical gardens and hydroponic farms that produce incredibly fresh ingredients without the need for pesticides or long transport routes. Everything tastes clean, mild, and comforting. And as you eat, you might catch occasional glances at the inner horizon through panoramic windows, sweeping views of forests, lakes, and distant city clusters gently curving upward, reminding you that you're inside something vast, yet stable and safe. After breakfast, your commute doesn't involve engines roaring or crowds rushing. Instead, smooth transit pathways guide you across the habitat using silent magnetic gliders or soft-rolling biosynthetic walkways. The motion is so steady that you barely feel it, and the views are intentionally slow, letting you soak in the scenery without overwhelming your senses. Even the air changes subtly as you travel, cooler near water zones, warmer near agricultural sectors, and always clean. The pressure never fluctuates, the lighting never flickers, and the temperature never spikes. The entire habitat wakes up with you, but it never feels frantic or noisy. Everything is designed to protect the calmness of your mind, easing you from sleep into your daily life as though the world itself has chosen to be gentle with you. In a place like this, the idea of morning stress simply doesn't exist. Instead, each day begins as a slow, guided transition into clarity, soft, steady, and perfectly balanced. Cities inside a planet-sized space habitat feel less like the bustling, noisy urban centers of Earth, and more like carefully curated sanctuaries where technology and nature blend so seamlessly that you rarely notice where one ends and the other begins. When you walk through these cities, the first thing you feel is the quiet, an intentional quiet, built into the architecture through sound-absorbing materials, soft, particle-based pavements, and infrastructure designed to minimize anything that could overwhelm the senses. Buildings curve with the natural flow of the habitat's inner landscape, rising gently upward without sharp edges or towering silhouettes that block the artificial sky. They aren't constructed from concrete or steel in the traditional sense. Instead, they use biocomposite materials that behave like living organisms, adjusting humidity, filtering pollutants, and maintaining a perfect internal temperature without the hum of air conditioners or heaters. The streets are lined with vegetation, real trees grown from genetic variants optimized for air purification, and soft plants whose leaves absorb excess CO2 while releasing clean oxygen in controlled cycles that keep the city's atmosphere crisp and mild. You won't find cars honking or engines idling. Transportation within these cities relies on silent, magnetically levitated gliders that travel smoothly along elevated paths or through tunnels lit by warm, indirect light. Even the movement of people feels unhurried, almost meditative, because the habitat's design encourages a slower, steadier rhythm of life. Workplaces are scattered throughout each city in clusters known as calm hubs, areas where architecture reduces visual clutter and promotes concentration through natural lighting and sound-diffusing surfaces. There are no flashing screens competing for attention. Information floats gently on translucent surfaces that only activate when approached. Restaurants and communal dining spaces open toward indoor gardens, where water channels run beneath walkways, producing a gentle background flow intended to replicate the soothing effects of natural brooks. Markets offer produce grown just hours earlier in the habitat's agricultural rings, and shops craft goods using fully recyclable materials produced within the habitat's own closed-loop manufacturing systems, making each city almost entirely self-sustaining. Public spaces are designed for emotional well-being. amphitheaters with acoustics tuned for soft music rather than loud performances, libraries with near-frictionless sliding archives, and contemplative parks where engineered breezes move through tall, luminous plant species that glow faintly during the habitat's simulated night. Emergency systems are integrated invisibly. Crime is rare due to the environment's stabilizing psychological effects. But when needed, drones and response units operate silently, guided by predictive models that prioritize de-escalation and safety. And as you walk through one of these cities, everything feels intentional, not crowded, not chaotic, but arranged with a kind of gentle precision that allows thousands of people to share the same space without ever feeling overwhelmed. The buildings breathe, the parks hum with quiet life, and the streets feel like pathways through a living, nurturing organism. It is a society built not around productivity or speed, but around harmony, comfort, and continuity, where technology works so quietly in the background that most of the time you forget you're inside a massive engineered world floating through space. Exploring the ecosystems inside a planet-sized space habitat is one of the most surreal and unexpectedly calming experiences imaginable, because everything around you looks natural enough to feel familiar, yet refined enough to feel almost dreamlike. Instead of forests that grow unpredictably, the habitat contains biodomes and environmental belts where every tree, every stream, and every patch of vegetation has been engineered to thrive in perfect balance, without droughts, pests, or ecological chaos. The forests stretch across vast arcs of the inner surface, their canopies gently curving upward until they disappear along the habitat's horizon line, creating the illusion that you're standing inside a tranquil planet of endless greenery. Sunlight here is soft and never harsh, diffused through light distribution layers in the artificial sky, giving plants exactly the wavelengths they need without scorching them or casting intimidating shadows. The air beneath the trees feels crisp but not cold, carrying natural scents produced by flora genetically tuned for mild aromas, vanilla-like notes near flowering sectors, fresh pine in high-altitude belts, and a hint of eucalyptus in the wellness regions designed for meditation and recovery. As you wander deeper into these forests, you might encounter rivers with perfectly steady currents, their waters filtered continuously through microfiltration channels hidden beneath the riverbed. These streams never flood, never dry out, and never carry murky debris. Instead, they move with a rhythmic consistency that creates a soothing, almost musical ambiance. Lakes glimmer under the soft artificial glow, each one supporting aquatic life forms adapted for calm movement. Slow-swimming fish with smooth scales, tiny organisms that glow faintly at night, and reed-like plants that sway in patterns designed to reduce turbulence. Even the wildlife inside the habitat is peaceful. Birds engineered to sing in harmonic frequencies, small grazing animals optimized to maintain plant cycles without over-consuming them, and pollinating insects that operate without stings or erratic behavior. You won't find predators stalking through the underbrush. The ecosystem is built for stability, not survival of the fittest drama. Instead, everything moves at a gentle pace, as if the entire environment is synchronized with the psychological needs of its inhabitants. Some regions replicate coastal landscapes, with soft sand that never overheats and shallow artificial tides controlled by gravitational modulation panels. Others resemble mountain ranges, not sharp or dangerous, but rounded, walkable slopes where stone-like composites form natural seating areas warmed by geothermal channels. Even rain in these ecosystems feels curated. It falls in fine, warm droplets, forming soft patterns that nourish the soil without creating mudslides or storms. The sound of it, steady, soft, almost hypnotic, can lull you into a meditative trance as it passes overhead. And as you sit beneath one of these gentle showers, watching water bead on the leaves and run into perfectly placed drainage routes, you begin to realize something profound. These ecosystems aren't just meant to mimic nature, They're meant to distill its most comforting elements into pure, soothing experiences. Everything thrives, but nothing overwhelms. Everything grows, but nothing invades. It is nature perfected, not to replace the wildness of Earth, but to create a sanctuary where life unfolds in harmony, accessible to anyone living inside this immense floating world. One of the most remarkable aspects of living inside a planet-sized space habitat is how natural the gravity and climate feel, even though neither of them is truly natural. Gravity, for instance, isn't created by a celestial body pulling you downward. It's produced by the megastructure's slow, colossal rotation, a constant motion so perfectly calibrated that your body never detects the mechanics behind it. You don't feel spinning. You don't feel artificial pressure. You simply feel grounded, as if standing on Earth, your feet meeting the terrain with reassuring stability and your muscles engaging just enough to remind your brain that the world beneath you is solid and real. This artificial gravity is uniform across the entire interior surface, so there are no high-altitude headaches, no low-pressure discomforts, and no strange variations that confuse your balance. You can walk from forests to lakes to cities without ever noticing a shift in weight or pressure. It is as if the entire environment adjusts itself around you, maintaining a perfect equilibrium designed to keep your body at ease. And while gravity shapes the way you move, climate shapes the way you feel. Inside the habitat, climate isn't a force of nature. It's an art form, curated through layers of atmospheric systems hidden within the shell. Temperatures never swing unpredictably. Instead, they follow a smooth, gentle curve that mirrors the ideal conditions of a mild spring day. Even the warmest afternoons don't rise to uncomfortable levels, and evenings cool just enough to feel refreshing without ever becoming cold. Humidity is regulated with such precision that your skin never dries out and never becomes sticky. It stays balanced in a way that feels almost therapeutic. The habitat's weather is engineered through a network of microclimate vents and atmospheric projectors that generate clouds, breezes, and even light rainfall, all carefully moderated to avoid anything abrupt or unsettling. Breezes have no sharp gusts. They flow in calming, rhythmic patterns designed to mimic the steady cadence of natural wind across open landscapes. The air itself is filtered continuously, not just for purity, but for emotional comfort. Oxygen levels remain stable, carbon dioxide is scrubbed away silently, and trace compounds that enhance mental relaxation are adjusted throughout the day based on population activity and biological feedback. Even light plays a role in the climate experience. The illumination panels circling the artificial horizon shift gradually across a 24-hour cycle, transitioning from warm dawn hues to brighter midday tones, then into soft, golden evening light that signals the body to unwind. Stargazing, too, is simulated through a subtle projection layer during the habitat's night cycle, offering a gentle view of constellations that drift slowly across the inner sky without overwhelming brightness. All of these climate factors combine to create a world where stresses simply don't exist. No heat waves, no thunderstorms, no freezing nights, no pressure changes before rain, no humidity spikes, no sudden gusts of wind. It is a climate engineered for human comfort, designed to maintain emotional and physical balance. And as you breathe in the perfectly tempered air, feeling the soft pull of artificial gravity grounding every step you take, you begin to understand why the people who grow up in this habitat feel a sense of serenity that those on Earth often struggle to find. Here, even the forces that shape your everyday existence are crafted to be kind. Life inside a planet-sized space habitat shapes human relationships in ways that feel both deeply familiar and subtly transformed, as if the environment itself encourages gentler interactions and a calmer rhythm of social connection. In cities designed for comfort and psychological well-being, people naturally move more slowly, speak more softly, and gather not out of urgency, but out of genuine ease. Public spaces are built around this idea. Wide open plazas filled with soft vegetation and reflective pools invite long conversations, while shaded walkways lined with bioluminescent plants make evening strolls feel like wandering through a living constellation. Social hubs are intentionally quiet, with architecture that dampens echoes and ambient technology that replaces the sharpness of city noise with a soft, consistent hum meant to soothe the nervous system. Throughout the habitat, people meet in community lounges, where circular seating arrangements foster open, relaxed dialogue, and small acoustic domes overhead create pockets of privacy without isolating anyone. Friendships form easily here, not because people are forced together by crowded living conditions, but because the habitat's emotional tone promotes clarity and openness. Workplaces encourage collaboration by design, arranging desks and living plants in gentle curves that mimic the natural landscape, helping the mind stay grounded even during long tasks. Instead of harsh fluorescent lights or digital overload, the environment uses warm tones and slow-moving data displays that reduce cognitive fatigue. Social rituals also evolve in this world. Mornings often begin with quiet communal breakfasts, and evenings end with outdoor gatherings where residents sit beneath the simulated stars, sharing stories or simply enjoying the silence together. Festivals take on a different meaning too, celebrating the balance between technology and nature rather than seasonal changes. During these events, sections of the artificial sky might glow with shifting patterns of light, creating mesmerizing auroras that ripple overhead, synchronized with music composed from natural soundscapes. Art is woven deeply into the habitat's culture, with installations that respond to movement or emotion, turning public areas into interactive sanctuaries of color and sound. Children grow up in neighborhoods where playgrounds are integrated into forests and gardens, and where structures made of soft biosynthetic materials allow them to explore safely without the harsh angular shapes common on Earth. Social stress is surprisingly low. Without traffic, weather extremes, or loud urban chaos, people tend to be more patient, more mindful, and more willing to help one another. Privacy remains available through well-designed personal dwellings that use sound insulation and adaptive lighting, allowing residents to retreat into solitude whenever needed. But even solitude feels different here, not isolating, but restorative, because the surrounding environment encourages balance. Relationships, friendships, work connections, and even casual interactions benefit from the habitat's gentle design, creating a society where emotional well-being is not an afterthought, but a structural principle. In this world, community doesn't feel like something you have to find. It feels like something that naturally forms around you, supported by architecture, atmosphere, and a collective understanding that harmony is not just possible, it's built into the foundations of everyday life. Deep beneath the peaceful landscapes and quiet cities of the planet-sized habitat lies a hidden network of engineering marvels, systems so immense and yet so silent that most residents go their entire lives without ever seeing or hearing them, even though these systems are the reason the world inside remains stable, breathable, illuminated, and alive. The heart of the habitat is an energy core positioned at its center of mass, a massive fusion system that burns clean and steady, producing power without smoke, noise, or radiation leaks. Unlike the raw intensity of stars, this controlled fusion is optimized for serenity. Its containment fields buffer every vibration, every pulse of energy, so thoroughly that not even a faint tremor reaches the living surface. Its energy output is channeled through superconductive networks running along the structural ribs of the megastructure, distributing power to every city, forest, agricultural ring, and environmental simulator without waste or fluctuation. Above the outer shell, enormous solar arrays unfold like metallic petals, capturing sunlight across millions of square miles, enough to power several Earth-sized civilizations. These panels rotate in a slow, graceful dance, synchronized with the habitat's orbit and rotation to maintain constant energy input. Energy storage, too, is a masterpiece. Vast, sponge-like quantum batteries absorb excess power during solar peaks and release it with flawless consistency during reduced exposure, ensuring that the cycles of day and night inside the habitat never depend on external weather or cosmic unpredictability. Water systems are equally sophisticated, circulating through filtration channels embedded in the inner crust. Every drop of water, from rainfall in the forest belts to condensation on city windows, eventually returns to the deep purification layers where it's cleansed by algae-based biofilters, ultraviolet chambers, and mineral balancing modules. As a result, the water inside the habitat is consistently pure, free of contaminants, and always in perfect equilibrium. Air follows a similar cycle. Fresh oxygen emerges from both natural plants and engineered photosynthetic membranes positioned throughout the structure, while carbon dioxide is absorbed silently and converted into biomass or stored for later use in agriculture. This circulation mimics Earth's natural atmospheric balance, but removes the chaos. No pollution spikes, no stale pockets of air, no allergens drifting unpredictably. The habitat even reuses organic waste in an elegant loop. Food scraps, plant material, and other biodegradable substances are carried to decomposition chambers, where enzymes break them down into nutrient-rich soil for forests and farms. Nothing is wasted, and nothing produces an unpleasant smell or sound. Every process occurs underground, far beneath where daily life unfolds. The megastructure's integrity is maintained by a network of nanoscopic repair systems that constantly scan for micro cracks, cosmic dust impacts, or stress points. When detected, these tiny robotic units seal, reinforce, or rebuild compromised sections within minutes, making the habitat feel almost immortal, an environment where decay is not feared, but anticipated and resolved long before it becomes visible. All these systems work together to create a world where residents rarely think about power shortages, water scarcity, or environmental decline. It is all so steady, so quiet, so invisibly dependable, that the habitat feels less like a machine and more like a living organism. An engineered ecosystem designed to sustain human life with a level of precision and gentleness that Earth, in all its natural beauty, could never guarantee every single day. Perhaps the most mesmerizing feature of a planet-sized space habitat is its artificial sky, a breathtaking illusion that surrounds you not from above, but from every direction, curving up and over your head like the inside of a gentle cosmic cradle. Unlike Earth, where the horizon stretches outward until it meets the distant curvature of the planet, the horizon inside the habitat bends upward, forming a continuous arc that eventually becomes the ceiling of the world itself. This creates a visual experience that is both surreal and comforting. When you look across a lake or a forest, you see not a distant end, but the land rising softly into the sky, dotted with tiny shimmering city lights or drifting clouds that seem to float upside down far above you. It's a constant reminder that you live inside something colossal, something engineered with such care that even the illusion of an infinite sky feels natural. The light source embedded near the upper arc of the habitat is a marvel of design, producing illumination that mimics the subtle shifts of sunlight across an entire day. In the morning, the inner sky glows with a warm gradient, soft peach tones blending into pale gold, while faint beams radiate gently across the curvature, giving the impression of a distant sunrise, even though the sun itself never appears as a distinct point. During midday, the light becomes brighter but never harsh, It diffuses through atmospheric layers that prevent glare, making it easy to walk under open fields or along reflective water surfaces without squinting. The color temperature remains consistent, calibrated to enhance mood and reduce fatigue. As evening approaches, the dome transitions gradually into hues of amber and rose, eventually fading into a cool, deep twilight that signals the body to wind down. And when night finally settles in, the habitat offers one of its most beautiful illusions, a soft star field projected high above, with constellations that drift almost imperceptibly across the curved ceiling. These aren't bright, overwhelming stars like the kind seen in clear mountain skies. They are calming, muted points of light that glow gently, chosen specifically to help the mind relax. Some residents say the artificial night sky feels more peaceful than the real one because it carries none of the vast existential weight of looking into deep space. Here, the stars feel close enough to touch, arranged with intention and care. Cloud systems operate on similar principles. Using a network of atmospheric diffusers, the habitat can produce cloud formations that move slowly across the arc of the world, casting soft shadows that glide like watercolor strokes over forests and lakes. These clouds never produce violent storms or sudden weather shifts. Instead, they drift in patterns designed to comfort, appearing and dissolving with a rhythm that mirrors deep breathing. Even rain follows this choreography. Droplets fall in gentle, warm patterns, avoiding disruption while still nourishing the ground evenly. People often pause just to watch the inner sky change, a sight so unique that it becomes a daily meditation. Some even take walks during the simulated twilight hours, when the habitat casts long, serene shadows, and the entire world feels suspended between day and night. It's a moment when the curvature overhead becomes especially noticeable, as lights in distant cities appear to hang above you like lanterns in a vast dreamscape. Living beneath a sky like this does something subtle to the human spirit. It removes the fear of the unknown, the unpredictability of storms, the harshness of scorching sunlight, and replaces them with predictability wrapped in beauty. The artificial sky doesn't just illuminate the habitat, it sets the emotional tone for life inside it, turning every day into an orchestrated experience of calm, clarity, and quiet wonder. Traveling across the vast interior of a planet-sized habitat is an experience unlike anything on Earth, not because of speed or spectacle, but because of the seamless comfort built into every step of the journey. Inside this colossal world, distances are immense, spanning thousands of miles along the curved inner surface, yet the systems designed to connect cities, forests, oceans, and agricultural rings operate with a level of smoothness that makes travel feel almost like drifting through a dream. Instead of highways or overcrowded train stations, transport hubs are quiet, circular spaces filled with warm, indirect lighting, soft biosynthetic seating, and faint soundscapes of flowing water or distant wind. Here, magnetically levitated gliders await passengers, floating silently a few inches above their tracks, vibrating with the subtle hum of stabilized magnetic fields. Stepping onto one of these vehicles feels like entering a moving room rather than a mode of transport. The floor is soft, the air warm, and the windows wide enough to offer panoramic views of the upward curving landscape. Once in motion, the glider accelerates smoothly. No jolts, no shaking, reaching speeds that would be terrifying on Earth but feel gentle here, thanks to the absence of friction and the perfect stability of the track. As you glide forward, the scenery shifts in a slow, relaxing motion. Forests shimmering under the artificial sky, silver rivers stretching across valleys, and distant cities perched along the curvature like glowing constellations. In the far upper horizon, lights from other continents appear suspended above you, creating the surreal impression that you're traveling through a world folded into itself. For longer distances, intercontinental lifts, massive vertical tunnels lined with gravitational regulators, carry passengers from one environmental zone to another. Entering one feels like stepping into a calm elevator filled with soft ambient tones. As it rises or descends along the habitat's curvature, the artificial gravity adjusts gradually, eliminating the stomach-dropping sensation typical of real elevators. You feel weightless for a moment, then gently grounded again as the lift delivers you to an entirely new landscape. From forests to desert biomes, from coastal rings to mountain arcs, all without turbulence or discomfort. Some routes travel through transparent tunnels suspended high in the inner sky, offering an aerial view of the habitat's world, a sight that can take your breath away. Below you, rivers glisten like threads of silver, forests ripple in waves of green, and small settlements dot the landscape like pearls along the arc. At night, when the artificial stars glow softly above, these sky tunnels feel like silent bridges between constellations. For more personal travel, people often use lightweight glider bikes, hovering frames that move quietly along guided magnetic paths. These are not meant for speed, but for tranquility, allowing you to explore the habitat at your own pace while feeling the artificial breeze against your skin. There are also walking paths, long, winding routes that stretch for hundreds of miles, designed for those who enjoy slow, meditative travel. These paths are lined with rest alcoves, reflective pools, soft lighting and gentle slopes that follow the curvature of the world. Walking along them feels like moving through a living painting, with distant landscapes rising overhead and the inner sky arching gracefully above. Regardless of the mode, travel inside the habitat is always quiet, always smooth, always intentional. There are no horns, no turbulence, no sudden stops, no stress. Everything is built to preserve the calm equilibrium of daily life. Moving from one region to another doesn't feel like commuting. It feels like flowing, drifting, or being gently carried through an environment designed not just to function, but to nurture the human mind. Here, even the act of going somewhere becomes a form of relaxation. Beneath the serene forests, quiet cities, and perfectly balanced ecosystems of the planet-sized habitat lies a world that most residents never see, a network of hidden levels where the machinery of this artificial civilization hums in silence, ensuring stability so flawless that everyday life feels almost magical. These lower layers aren't secret because they're forbidden or dangerous, but because the designers understood that uninterrupted calm is part of what makes this habitat feel like home. If you were to access one of these restricted maintenance corridors, you would find yourself in a long, softly lit passage where the air is cooler, the walls lined with composite panels that pulse with faint bioluminescent veins carrying energy, data, and atmospheric flows. There is no industrial noise here, no clanging pipes, no mechanical grinding, just a steady, low-frequency vibration that feels more like the heartbeat of a living organism than the workings of a machine. In these deeper layers, climate regulators recalibrate temperature across continents. Gravity modulation rings keep rotational force evenly distributed. Water purification channels hum quietly beneath transparent walkways, and atmospheric processes sift through billions of molecules every second without releasing a sound. Some sections contain vast chambers filled with shimmering membranes that expand and contract like lungs, drawing in air from the world above, cleansing it, then releasing it back with perfect balance. Other areas house energy conduits that glow with a soft cerulean light, carrying power from the fusion core outward like veins in an enormous circulatory system. Engineers and environmental technicians visit these places rarely, not because they're dangerous, but because the systems are mostly autonomous. Swarms of microscopic maintenance bots, unseen by the residents above, drift along the walls like tiny silver fireflies, repairing microfractures, clearing dust, reinforcing structural joints, and monitoring stress points created by the habitat's rotation and internal climate. Their presence is subtle, They emit no audible sound and leave no detectable mark, working continuously to ensure that no flaw ever grows large enough to disturb life inside the habitat. In some deeper regions, observation decks allow authorized personnel to look outward through thick radiation-shielded windows into the void beyond. From these vantage points, the stars appear sharper than anything seen inside the simulated night sky. Millions of points of light suspended in absolute silence. Yet even these spectacular views are not meant to inspire fear or isolation. Instead, they remind observers that the quiet world within the habitat is protected from the harshness of space by layers of engineering thicker than mountains. There are also restricted resonance halls, massive chambers fitted with stabilizing gyros and superconductive coils that gently realign the habitat's rotation when needed. These rooms glow with soft geometric patterns that shift across the floors and walls as the systems recalibrate, producing an atmosphere that feels more like a meditation chamber than an engine room. And then there are the deep archives, libraries of data preserved within temperature-controlled cores containing the original blueprints, environmental models, cultural histories, and scientific foundations that shape the habitat. Few ever enter these vaults, but their presence ensures continuity. Should anything be lost, the knowledge to restore it rests here, waiting. What makes these hidden layers extraordinary isn't their technology alone. It's the fact that all of this complexity exists quietly, invisibly, without intruding on the gentle, rhythmic life above. Every system is designed to serve, support, and preserve, not to dominate or overwhelm. As you stand in these silent chambers and feel the faint hum of the habitat's inner workings beneath your fingertips, you understand something profound. The tranquility of life inside a world like this isn't an accident. It's a promise kept by the layers beneath your feet, a promise that the world will always stay calm, stable, and whole. Growing up inside a planet-sized space habitat shapes a person in ways that are gentle, profound, and subtly different from anything experienced on Earth. Because every aspect of childhood unfolds within an environment designed to protect emotional well-being, nurture curiosity, and soften the edges of life. Children here are raised under a sky that never threatens them with storms, in neighborhoods where temperature and light remain steady, and in school environments shaped like sanctuaries rather than institutions. A typical childhood morning begins with soft lighting that simulates sunrise, easing young minds awake without harsh alarms or sudden brightness. Schools are usually nestled within nature belts, structures with curved walls, living green roofs, and floor-to-ceiling windows that look out onto forests, lakes, or open fields that curve upward along the inner arc of the world. Classrooms are quiet, not because students are forced into silence, but because the architecture naturally absorbs sound, encouraging focus without pressure. Lessons blend science, art, ecology, and emotional awareness, teaching not just information, but how to understand oneself and the environment. Hands-on learning happens everywhere. Children study biology by tending to engineered plants that grow with predictable rhythms. They learn physics by observing how the habitat maintains artificial gravity, and they explore social science through guided interactions in communal gardens and observation rooms overlooking the interior horizon. Playgrounds aren't metal structures, but integrated landscapes, soft hills, biosafe climbing vines, shallow reflective pools, and glider tracks where children can ride micro hoverboards that move slowly and safely. There are no dangerous heights, no sharp edges, no unpredictable weather. Instead, every corner feels like a gentle invitation to explore. Friendships in this world tend to form easily because stress levels are low and communities are designed to encourage belonging. Children grow up hearing stories not of predators or natural disasters, but of exploration, discovery, and the engineering brilliance that allows them to live in a world that floats quietly through space. Their sense of home stretches far beyond a house or a street. It includes forests that curve into the sky, cities that glow above the horizon, and the knowledge that their world itself is an achievement of human imagination. Teenagers learn responsibility by helping maintain small parts of the ecosystem, monitoring plant growth, adjusting water flow in micro-rivers, studying energy patterns, or learning how the atmosphere remains balanced. These tasks aren't chores, they're rites of passage, connecting young people to the living system that sustains them. Emotional development is supported by wellness hubs, meditation groves, and social mentors who teach communication and balance. Conflicts still happen, of course. Human nature doesn't disappear, but they unfold in an environment that emphasizes empathy, patience, and reflection. And as these children grow older, stepping into adult roles within the habitat society, they carry with them a sense of stability that comes from never having experienced environmental chaos. They've never heard thunder shake their home, never felt fear from a sudden darkness, never seen pollution flood their skies. Instead, they've known only harmony, sunrises that always arrive on schedule, forests that always flourish, cities that always glow softly at night. For them, the habitat isn't a technological marvel. It's simply the world, their world, the only world they know, a world that taught them that life can be steady, predictable, and profoundly peaceful. And in their calm, steady hearts, the legacy of this engineered paradise continues. As the simulated night sky settles gently over the curved world inside the planet-sized habitat, you begin to feel a kind of calm that's difficult to find anywhere else. A quiet certainty that everything around you is steady, intentional, and safe. The artificial stars shimmer softly above, not blazing or overwhelming, but glowing with a tender warmth that invites your mind to slow down. Cities along the upward arc dim their lights as the habitat shifts into its restful cycle, leaving only the soft outline of illuminated walkways and the faint reflections of lakes that mirror the gentle twilight. You walk through one of these tranquil pathways, feeling the perfectly tempered air brush against your skin, a climate that knows exactly how to comfort you. The ground beneath your feet holds a slight warmth, as if the world itself were offering reassurance. Around you, the last murmurs of daily life fade into a serene hush. Distant gliders making their final passages, children settling into sleep, and the faint hum of environmental systems adjusting into their nighttime rhythm. As you pause at the edge of a forest belt, the trees sway with a slow, rhythmic breeze generated by atmospheric processes calibrated to mimic the soothing cadence of Earth's calmest nights. Their leaves rustle with harmonics specifically chosen to quiet the mind, and somewhere in the canopy, engineered birds release a final sequence of soft tones before settling into silence. You look upward, following the curve of the world until the forests on the opposite side rise above you like a celestial painting, glowing faintly beneath the artificial starlight. It is a sight that never becomes ordinary, no matter how long you live here. And in this moment of stillness, you begin to understand the full meaning of a world like this. It is not simply a marvel of engineering or a triumph of technology. It is an intentional act of care, a sanctuary created to preserve the gentlest parts of human experience. Every climate system, every sound absorber, every bioluminescent garden, every magnetic transit line, every curve of architecture, all of it exists to ensure that life inside this habitat unfolds without fear, without chaos, without the unpredictability that once weighed on the shoulders of civilizations. You realize that this place, this immense cradle drifting through the stars, was built not just for survival, but for peace. For the chance to live a life where mornings always arrive softly, where communities thrive without noise or rush, where nature is preserved in its most comforting form, and where technology serves quietly in the background, asking for nothing in return. As you breathe in slowly, letting the crisp, perfectly balanced air fill your lungs, the world around you becomes almost meditative. The lights dim further, The artificial constellations drift lazily across the inner sky, and the silent promise that has carried humanity into this engineered world becomes clear. Here, you are safe. Here, you can rest. Here, every detail is designed to support harmony, from the gravity that anchors your steps to the forests that rise above the horizon like living arcs of serenity. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the gentle rhythm of the habitat systems settling into their nocturnal cadence. And as you stand there, cradled inside this vast, quiet universe built with human hands, you understand, perhaps for the first time, that peace is not something distant or unreachable. It is all around you, woven into the very structure of the world. And as the night deepens, inviting your mind to drift and your body to relax, the final thought that lingers is simple, soft, and comforting. In a place like this, sleep comes easily.